Hey everybody, Tony here with RandomLikes. I hope you're doing well today. I'm out here today doing some maintenance on my Kubota L3200. But really, a lot of the tractors out there, the maintenance is very similar. So you might pick up a thing or two from watching this. I wanted to record this today because I'm doing a lot of maintenance on it. It's like at 1500 hours, so I've got to do oil filter, air filter, fuel filter, hydraulic filters, and then of course grease the whole thing. So we're going to walk through that process, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I'll answer them as quickly as I can and the best of my ability. So thank you for watching today, and let's get rolling, let's get started. One of the first things that I always do is I leave my bucket on because I'm going to grease it, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put it all the way up so I can access the hood a little bit easier. You always want to make sure that you're safe. I've got doors open in the front of me. I know the door behind me isn't open. You want to make sure your doors are open when you're running your tractor. You also want to, I always put on my emergency brake just to be safe so it doesn't roll. And luckily there's enough room underneath here that I can get underneath here and I can change the, I can get underneath here and I can reach most of the filters without having to jack it up or anything like that, which is kind of nice. All right, let's get underneath the hood. So on this Kubota, there's just a little pin underneath here. And you pull it, and up goes the hood. Okay, so I usually like to start with draining the oil first, and then I'll replace the oil and get everything out the hood done, shut the hood down, and then move on to the next thing. First thing we're going to do, grab a socket set and an oil pan. Okay, for my oil pan, they're 3/4 inch drain plugs, but yours might be different. So I'm going to take out both of these. Now to get your oil draining faster, get in here right here. I always take off the oil cap. One thing you really want to do is you want to make sure you check your air filter. I change it every single oil change, no matter what, because I do a lot of field work and stuff like that, and it's always dusty. And you can just see how dirty this thing is. It's been about 100 hours since it's changed. So, but the inner air filter, mine has two. Some will, some won't. They recommend it for dusty situations. So I've got new ones of these. This inner filter could be used for something else. I don't know what else, but still in good shape. Maybe if you like to recycle things, vacuum filter, things like that. Just a thought. So first goes in the inner air filter. It just kind of slides in there. And then you can kind of see the difference in the filth. So that goes in next. Make sure that's in there securely. And then just replace your cap. You want to make sure that your cap is on there good. And you put it back on the same way. You don't want any air, you don't want any more dust and stuff getting in there than necessary. Oh, there we go, it's on there good. While I'm right here, I'm going to go ahead and check the screen. This has a secondary screen. You can see there's some stuff on there, nothing too bad. If you do a lot of mowing, high field brush hog work, you're going to need to clean this out pretty regularly. What I do is I come from the backside and I blow out the radiator and the transmission cooler so that it kind of pushes it out the way it came in. And you can just take a light, don't take too high a pressure or you'll mess up the fins on your radiator. Take a light pressure hose and kind of rinse it out, especially after a lot of dust and stuff would get in there and build up. You don't want your tractor to overheat, cause issues. Also, while I'm up here, I got the battery last year, so I know it's good. So you might want to check to see how old your battery is. And then always want to check your coolant level or your antifreeze. And there's just a little bit in the bottom, so I gotta go see if I got some and put some in there. You want to check with your manufacturer to make sure that you use the right kind of coolant, right kind of oils, filters. If you're going to invest that much in a tractor, you might as well invest that much in all the labor and the parts, stuff like that. Oh, it's dripping out. That looks pretty dirty. Might be time for a change, actually. So I'm just going to put a little bit in now. After looking at that, that's why I always check it out. Looks a little milky. I think I might look into draining that completely and refilling the whole thing. I'm rinsing it out. Do a coolant flush. Might be time to do that too. Alright. The next thing is, see if the oil's done dripping out the bottom, and we'll get the filter off. Before I take the oil filter off, I always like to replace these. Put them back up in here. The sides. We'll rinse there. And just give them a little snug down. You don't want to go too over tight. Just like so. On to the oil filter. I'm going to move this over here because that's where the oil filter's at. And then grab my stuff out of here. Okay, so next we have the oil filter. And I'll just put that down there for now. Grab another oil filter. So one thing I always do is, this is a different brand, but I would just kind of make sure they're the same filter. Alright. And this one says on there, oil filter. And one thing I always do is, whatever oil you're using, so I always take a little bit, put a little bit of oil, new oil, not used oil around there. Make sure that the rubber gasket or seal doesn't come off. You're changing oil, and make sure it's not stuck to the other one, because if you do, and it's stuck, then you might end up having it. So I usually just get it kind of snug, and then I just go about a quarter, half turn. Don't over tighten it or else you'll regret that later. Okay, so the oil plugs have been replaced. Oil filter changed, old oil drained. Clean up my mess here. You don't need to watch me, but now I'm just gonna fill it up. My tractor takes about 5 quarts. I find that it usually ends up taking about 5.5 quarts, even those specs. So you'll check your specs, how many quarts yours takes. Here's a little tip for you. If your funnel doesn't have a cap on it, some of them come with caps, recommend buying with a cap. Because what happens inevitably is dirt and stuff accumulates in there. I don't know if I lost the cap to this, I don't think it ever had one, but found this little plastic bowl, fits right in there. Kind of protects it from getting all that dust and stuff in there. And inevitably if you get dust in there, you forget to clean it out. Now you're putting all that contaminants in your oil, your fresh clean oil. So I always keep my oil funnels really clean. I'll spray them out with some brake clean or something like that, just to make sure they're dry before you do that. So we'll go ahead and fill this up with oil, and we'll move on to the next thing. So when you're done filling it up with oil, make sure you put your oil cap back on. Now next thing we're gonna do is, since we're right here, we're gonna go ahead and change the fuel filter. I'm gonna move that over just a little bit. Now for my fuel filter, it has a little push button up inside, so once you take it off, the fuel will stop running. You wanna make sure that you don't have a fuel shutoff somewhere in your fuel line, and you may need to shut that off, otherwise you're just gonna have fuel running everywhere. So I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew this, and you'll see some fuel come out until I get it past the point that it'll stop. And now you can see it stop. Ooh, look at all that dirt in there. That's why you change your filters regularly. It looks like almost like a leaf. Not sure how that got in there. But that's what filters do. That's what they're made for. Okay. So I'm gonna dump this fuel out in here. There we go. Now, you can see there's all sorts of gunk in the bottom there. I'm gonna grab a pair of pliers to take this out. So mine gets in there pretty tight. So, oh, that wasn't too bad at all. I'm just gonna set this down here. And you can just kind of see all the gunk in the bottom of there. What I like to do is I just get my can of diesel. What I do is I take and get my can of diesel and I kind of rinse it out a little bit. Try to get all that junk out of there. Now for my filter's pretty straightforward and simple. It's got 2 O-rings on it, and you want to make sure that you don't roll your O-rings over and just put them on. So this first O-ring, if memory serves me correctly, goes right down in there. And then this will line up. There's little tabs in here. You can see there's tabs on that. You just slide that in there. I'll come back to that. Put that on second. It's always a really snug fit. So there it is. Set that O-ring there. Now keep it from spilling out. And then another little tiny one in here. There's a little one, and it just goes right down in there. So now just repeat the process. And what's nice about mine here, make sure that is on there good. There we go. You can see, you push up on this, it already begins to fill up with fuel, so you don't have to dump fuel in it. Some of the bigger tractors and the bigger diesel motors, things like that, fill up your filters with fuel before you put them on. The reason being is so that there's not air pockets in there, causing issues to your tractor or to your truck. But that does it automatically, which is a nice feature that Kubota has. Okay, now that I've filled up, changed those 2 things, I'm going to go ahead and start it. I'm going to start the tractor. I'm going to run it for about 20 to 30 seconds. Let the oil build up, fuel build up, all that kind of stuff. And you may have a little hiccup when you first start it up after changing your fuel filter, just why as it gets fuel up there. So, alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Well, apparently my microphone stopped working here, but just checking the oil here. Always take the dipstick out, clean it off with a clean rag, put it back in, and then bring it back out and check it. And it's hard to see on the video, but there's 2 little holes in the dipstick, and then you want to be in between those 2. It's slightly over, but I think it'll be fine once I run it a little bit. There you go. Now the oil's all changed and fresh oil put back in. Let's move on to the next thing. Something else I want to add that I always add to the fuel is a fuel additive for diesel. This is an all-in-one from AMSOIL. I've been using the AMSOIL products for many years, and my father before me has been using it for 40 plus years. It's always been a good product. It helps with anti-gel, especially in the wintertime. You don't want your diesel gelling up. Comes with a cleaner and cetane booster and keeps the water out of your system. So I highly recommend using this. Another AMSOIL product I really like is their diesel oil. It's synthetic. Always put that in my tractor as well, since I originally owned it. I'll try to put a link in the description for the AMSOIL products or their website. So one of the products that I use here is the AMSOIL synthetic grease. It's always been a good grease. It's a multi-purpose. You can use it for everything. And I really like the product, so I've been using them for a long time. Before I put the tractor bucket down, there's some spots underneath that are hard to reach once the tractor bucket's down, so I want to make sure I get those greased up first, like where I'm pointing to here, and up above my head right here where you can't see. So I'll grease all those, then I'll put the bucket down, and we'll grease the top side of the bucket. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to change the hydraulic filters. There's one here, and then there's one on the other side as well, as you can kind of see up here. And then one of my suggestions would be to make sure you change them quickly. You want to release all the pressure off the hydraulic system. So a couple things you want to do is you want to go ahead and put your bucket all the way down and just kind of let it down with the tractor not running. That'll take pressure off the lines. And then also your third point, put it all the way down and that'll take some of the pressure off the hydraulic system as well. Well, that's a wrap. We got all the fluids changed, the filters changed, and we are ready to go out and do some work, but it is getting dark, so I think I'm going to grab me something to eat. So don't forget to check your tire pressures as well. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. All right, I'm out of here.